What's up everybody, my name is Cal, and today I'm going to review Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Directed by Ryan Coogler, this takes place a year after Avengers Endgame, where the people of Wakanda fight to protect their home from intervening world powers as they mourn the death of King T'Challa. Before we start this review, I want to take the time to acknowledge and appreciate what Chadwick Boseman has done for cinema and especially for the MCU. He has certainly inspired and influenced many of us and will continue to do so. Playing the iconic Black Panther character was such a spectacular moment for many, and myself included. The dedication that he put into his performances whilst undergoing serious medical treatment showed his love and enthusiasm he had for the fans and character. May you rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, and thank you. Shuri, played by Leticia Wright. Straight off the bat, Leticia definitely had to step up quickly, going from a side character into a main one, so I think she pulled it off quite well. The emotional aspect of her character was done perfectly, and she really expressed and highlighted her grievance well. Her character arc certainly was impressive, going from bottling up her feelings and grief to then coming to accept it by the end. It was powerful. I definitely liked her shift in character in the latter half of the film, from grievance to vengeful, almost leading into villainous territory, which coincides with her meeting Killmonger in the ancestral plane. I liked her Black Panther costume. It definitely had elements of T'Challa and Killmonger's suit designs mixed in with her own take on the costume. I liked the Panther gauntlets, which of course we saw Shuri use in the first film. Namor, played by Tenoch Huerta. Namor was certainly an interesting antagonist for this film, in many ways a character that can relate to Shuri. I think the cold ruthlessness of the character is adamant from the moment we're introduced to him. His motivation of wanting to destroy the surface world exploits Namor's arrogance to humanity, which makes for great villainous traits. I found Namor in the first couple of scenes he's introduced in as intimidating. Loved the silhouette shot of him above the sea after killing 2 people. I would have to admit, anytime I saw any of the Talokian warriors, I kept thinking of Avatar, and that unfortunately is never going to leave my mind. I can't deny Namor is a powerful mutant. He certainly is a force not to be messed with, but I feel as if he falls under the mediocre villains of the MCU. One that was decent, but not one I'm going to remember instantly. Favourite sequences? Shuri visiting Talokan City. This was definitely a sign of the visual effects actually being good in a Phase 4 MCU project. The use of colours and music really highlighted the beauty of life in the Talokan City. It was kind of atmospheric too. I like how we come back to this city and also Wakanda through parallel editing, highlighting the similarities between these 2 secret civilizations and how they aren't so different. Minus one being underwater.
I am under the water. Please help me. Here too much raining.
Ramonda exiling Okoye. As performances go, this was definitely one of the best moments in an MCU project. Angela Bassett really stole this scene. She really captivated the emotional toll and pain that Ramonda was going through, having to let Okoye go for losing Shuri to the Talakonians, as well as grieving for the loss of her son and losing her husband. Angela Bassett really demonstrated raw emotion throughout this scene and the sheer heartbreak her character has undergone. Shuri vs Namor final fight. Normally, I kind of think the final fight scenes are all the same with a big CGI battle with loads of explosions and chaos. And yeah, I admit that this happened in the final act of this film, but I personally liked this particular fight. Shuri at this point is more or less influenced by Killmonger's speech in the ancestral plane and is seriously on the verge of showing no mercy to Namor.
No mercy.
We get some cool fast-paced close-up hand-to-hand combat clips of the 2 brawling it out on the beach. Kinda expecting Shuri to kill Namor, it was definitely a tense battle. Then I like how Shuri's mother, Ramonda, comes to her in her mind to remind her of who she really is. It's a really nice sentiment. The callback to Civil War where T'Challa speaks about vengeance consuming him and the others was a nice touch. The good points of this film: performances. This was definitely one of the highlights of this film, and there were certain standouts from the likes of Angela Bassett and Leticia Wright that stole certain scenes and really demonstrated the emotional toll of grief. I hope they get Oscar nominations and loads of awards for their performances. Parallel editing. I really liked how they used this technique to show similarities in conflict as well as the resolutions. We see this in the final act where Shuri is fighting Namor and when Riri and Okoye are fighting the Talakonian warriors. We also get the moment where Shuri realizes how similar Wakanda and Talokan City are to one another and the civilizations that live within them, kind of thinking, why should the innocent suffer the consequences of our actions type of thing. Cinematography. There were some beautiful shots in this film. I think my favourite moments were the close-up emotional reactions of characters. Certainly the scene with Ramonda exiling Okoye comes to mind. Music. I think the Black Panther films have consistently had some of the best musical soundtracks in the MCU, and Wakanda Forever certainly had the ones that got at your heartstrings. The final sequence of this film where Shuri is accepting the loss of her brother, Lift Me Up by Rihanna plays, and are you trying to make us cry, Marvel? Because you're doing so good of a job of it. Visual effects. I am so glad they improved the visual effects for this film because it definitely would have distracted from the storytelling. I really loved the way Talokan City was portrayed. It was aesthetically stunning to see, really encapsulating the great wonders of this civilization. I would have to admit that the only bad CGI we got that I noticed was probably the designs of Okoye's suit in the final battle and Riri Williams' Ironheart armour. Either the CGI looked bad or the aesthetic designs were. The bad points of this film. Runtime. While this isn't a new thing with MCU films, this one certainly had a lot of length to it.
That's what she said!
I know I complained that Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness were short, but you definitely felt the runtime with Wakanda Forever. I think the whole subplot with Riri Williams was unnecessary and didn't add anything to the story. She was more or less a plot device. I think it was a way of the MCU to introduce us to the character prior to a Disney Plus show. It felt like in this film her development was rushed. This could have been saved for the Ironheart show. Missing T'Challa / recast debate. This is a whole controversial thing, but there certainly is a divide amongst fans and cinema goers alike. Some persons didn't mind the lack of T'Challa or a recast, where others were the opposite and thought the film needed to recast him. Personally, I think Ryan Coogler handled the whole T'Challa situation well. Of course, this film was dedicated to Chadwick Boseman and focused on the grief that surrounded his loss. For Marvel to simply recast him like that, it would have just seemed off. Like, would you seriously not mention it and not pretend we lost a great actor? It certainly caused a divide amongst fans and certainly has affected the popularity of this film, but overall, it has been well received. So in conclusion, I would give Black Panther Wakanda Forever an 8.5 out of 10. I think this film handled its themes surrounding grief perfectly and showed us the emotional toll it has taken amongst the characters, actors and fans alike. I'm thankful they've ended Phase 4 on a somber note rather than cheesy lines and awful visual effects. It felt like a lot of care and craft went into the making of this film. I think the emotional performances, musical score and visual effects were done to a really high standard and certainly should receive high praise. I would say on the downside that this film could have done with a shorter runtime, focusing more on Wakanda and Talokan City's issues and Namor's antagonistic side. It's hard to not take the Talakonian warriors seriously when all you can think about is Avatar. As well as this, certain subplots in this film were unnecessary and didn't really add much to the story. Riri Williams' role in this film was not needed as much as it did, but I can understand why the MCU did this. The debate in regards to recasting T'Challa is definitely something that's discussed by fans and avid cinema goers after the release of this film, which I guess has caused some negative reception for this film. So comment down below what you thought of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Who were your favourite characters, favourite sequences, and thoughts for the future of this particular character in the MCU? Like and subscribe and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!